Greetings, fungal associates. Welcome to Completely Arbortrary, the podcast about trees and other related topics. I am Alex Crowson, and I'm alongside my co-host, as always, Casey Jebediah Clapp.
Well, how you doing?
Hi, Casey.
Alex, I'm glad that you're still here.
You know what I'll say to you, Casey?
Yes.
I'm glad to be with you, Casey Clapp, here at the end of all things.
This is where I've always wanted to be with you, Alex.
Do you know what I'm referencing?
I believe when the mountain was about to explode after the Ring of Power was thrown in.
Yeah.
And then mostly just Frodo thought that he was going to die. And he assumed that Sam was also going to have that attitude.
Yeah.
But then what did Sam do? Picked his ass up, took him outside, took him home, tucked him in bed.
I think that's when they were laying on the rock and they're like done. And they're like, it's over.
Okay.
Frodo, I think, literally says, it's over.
It's over. I think you sent me a meme of that one time.
Yes, when I was done editing a particularly vicious
bad
episode.
One. Yeah.
Casey, here we are in book 3.
We've done it.
Of our Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yep.
Lord of the Tree Rings, excuse me.
Yes.
And we've made it.
I feel I'm ready.
We're stepping into Mordor.
Yeah, we're finally walking into Mordor.
Yeah.
You know, this episode actually, it feels like this is going to be us walking into Mordor.
Yeah, I'm weary. We've never recorded this much in a row. I truly feel like a hero, like Frodo.
I hope that then I'm the hero, like Sam, which, as I've made very clear before, is the actual hero of Lord of the Rings, the series.
I basically disagree.
I know, but that's all right. Not everyone can be right all the time, Alex.
We all have our theories, Casey.
We all have our cones, and each is Sam.
Wow. Can you tell I'm faking it?
You guys, Alex, when did I get here today?
You got to my house at about 10 o'clock.
Yeah, and it is now 5:55.
Yes, it is. It's about 6 p.m.
Yeah, so it's been a long day. We've now officially been 12 hours.
No.
Huh.
About 8 hours.
Yes, 8 hours, which is, for us, the longest work day.
I know, right? Like, oh, boo-hoo us.
Yeah, everyone's like, you started at 10, crash the river.
Yes, I got at the mill at 5 a.m.
I know, well, sorry.
Casey, we have a great topic today that I'm very excited to sort of just chat about with you.
Yeah.
That's sort of the premise of this episode, is just you and I chatting about something.
Mordor is the daytime talk show episode for us.
Yes, that's right. I am Sally Jesse Raphael.
and I am Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh.
Ellen
Not a good look now.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Ellen's bad now.
Dang it. Ellen's been canceled. Shit. I'm Maori.
No, also bad.
Maori's canceled too?
Oh, 100%.
Shit. Who else is there?
How about
Oprah? Is Oprah canceled? I can't be Oprah. Who can be? I can't do that.
You couldn't handle being Oprah.
No, it's like you step into her body and your mind explodes because how does that woman do it? She's incredible.
You become the universe.
She is singularity.
Casey, we're talking about an interesting tree this week, first of all.
Yeah.
We are talking about Stewartia.
That is right.
A tree that I've never heard of. However, it plays wonderfully into our theme for a few different reasons.
It does.
When we first were conceiving these episodes, we wanted to pick a tree for each movie that represented that movie/book in a proper way.
Something that had to do with it, you know?
Yes.
It's not, you can't draw straight lines, but, you know, you can draw fuzzy kind of like clouds around it.
Yes. And for our fellowship episode, we talked about the oak.
Yep.
The pedunculate oak, because of Hobbiton, and it's very Hobbit-like tree, Hobbiton-like tree, Shire-like. For our Two Towers episode, we talked about real-life Fangorn Forest and the Norway spruce.
Yep.
Here, at the end of all things, Return of the King. We go to Gondor in this story.
Yes, we do.
And Gondor has a tree built in, the White Tree of Gondor, which we're going to talk about later. But you and I read some references. We did some research.
Yep.
And you landed on this tree because you believe that this is about as close as we can to find to as a 1-to-1 with a real life tree and the White Tree of Gondor.
I think so.
Okay.
I'm not going to promise that, so everyone's just going to have to take that from what it is. But the White Tree of Gondor is its architecture is delicate yet clearly firm. The tree is not a big tree. It's not massive. It's somewhat small. You can see that it has not huge leaves. Its buds kind of, rather its twigs, kind of come down to a smaller sort of point. Like it's a very delicate looking tree in sort of texture. So.
And we read somewhere that it grows, that at one time it would grow white flowers,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
That was a big part of it.
That is true. So our initial thought was, well, okay, that could be like a dogwood, maybe. And I was like, well, yeah, but a dogwood doesn't have the same kind of sort of upright kind of open canopy. Dogwoods, as they grow, if it's the Pacific one, it's going to be like this big massive thing that's very columnar as like a shape. It looks like a one of those thunderclouds that just kind of builds on top of itself and looks like it's really tall.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah, that's more of a Pacific dogwood. The Eastern flowering dogwood is one that is like very circular and round. Like it becomes a very nice little globe on the top. But the Stewartia, and specifically we're looking at Stewartia pseudocellia.
Wow.
And that is a tree that has these beautiful understated white flowers with a perfect yellow center. It's in the tea family, so it looks really similar to the camellia, also in the tea family. Of course, in this case, they call it this is the pseudocamellia, so it's a false camellia because it looks like it in terms of flowers, but they're just a little bit different. But the Stewartia is it's in at least the tea family, and it has these the shape of the crown of the plant as you step back. It doesn't have a central leader. It kind of immediately splits into several smaller limbs, grown in the open. And as it splits into these smaller stems and limbs, it kind of becomes this very open-shaped tree where it kind of creates individual branches that come out as they kind of get bigger and older, as opposed to one big uniform crown. It's kind of slightly irregular in terms of the large look of it, but once you get closer in, everything is really, really regular. So it's kind of one of those things where, you know how like some rock stars have like messy hair, but it looks really nice?
Right. It's like design. What was that phrase you came up with? Something chaos.
Did I say controlled chaos?
Controlled chaos?
No, it wasn't chaos. Oh, shoot. I never remember these
But do you remember what I'm saying?
I do remember what you're saying.
Designed to look chaotic.
Yeah, that was the beech tree, I think, is when we discussed that. So it is, yes, it's very similar to that. Right?
Okay.
It has that same appearance as the beech, but way smaller, proportional in every way.
Yeah.
Not to mention it has the same kind of beautiful smooth bark as a beech.
Yes.
But it peels and flakes off.
There we go.
Oh my God. The bark is probably my favorite part of this tree.
Well, Casey, we haven't gotten to that yet.
Sorry, I know. Now I'm just like waxing poetic.
You leapfrogger.
Anyway, that is why we chose that's why leapfrogger. That was good. That's why we chose this tree.
Yes. Through many years of research, we came upon this answer.
Yeah, we've been looking like for years, just like Mr. Meyer.
I was going to say in that library that Gandalf goes to.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
By candlelight.
In the Citadel.
Ooh, in the bottom in the basement. Oh my God.
Yeah, gross.
Casey, let's imagine, as we do every episode, that you and I are walking through the courtyard at the top of Minas Tirith, and we come across this Stewartia. It's canon now, okay?
Wow.
The White Tree of Gondor is a Stewartia.
Yeah, it's not canon in this. It's canon in the Lord of the Rings lore.
Yes. We now own the Tolkien estate. Casey, let's ID this tree.
All right. So, as we discussed, the crown of it looks like this sort of open branching crown. And everything is well spaced. When they're young, the main stems kind of grow up and then curve over like this because the buds come out alternately arranged. So as they come up, the main stem, like sometimes the twig on the left will actually grow and become the main leader, and the main stem will kind of start growing out to the right and become a little bit more of a lateral branch.
Interesting.
And then it kind of keeps on doing this as the tree gets bigger. So you end up getting these kinds of young trees that have this very like the stems look like they're kinked going up.
Almost like they're a snake slithering upward.
Yeah, exactly. And then so you get that beginning, but then as the crown gets older and bigger, those main limbs kind of all they all kind of take dominance to a certain degree. So you get this big rounded crown. And they're not very big trees, like in the sense of like how big they are from afar, 40 feet, massive tree.
Wow.
Yeah, they're really, really kind of small little trees.
I like that.
And as you get closer, you'll start seeing the leaves, and the leaves are utility leaves. There's nothing really specific about them. But what they do have going for them is they have a light green. Mostly, there's like little teeny tiny serrations along the edge, and they tend to be somewhat cup-like. So they will bend upwards around the central mid vein in the leaf.
Yeah.
Ever so slightly, and the rest of the veins that laterally come off will be kind of indented a little bit in the leaf blade. And this is pretty common in a lot of little plants or little tree leaves. But what's cool about this one is that they're really obvious. So as soon as you see it, you're like, okay, there's these little serrations. It kind of has that little bend. These the veins are kind of almost inset into the leaf itself. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you'll see the flower buds growing in between them. So it almost looks like a pearl inside of a clamshell.
Wow.
Where there's this little perfect, like light green, whitish bud with the leaves or the petals just peeking through the outside, like the globe is. It's like a cabbage or something, where it's just kind of opening up, and you can just kind of see the whiteness.
That's very pretty.
Inside these little green things. It's really a stunning tree.
A little hidden gem.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, as those flower buds open, shaboom, you get this like wavy, feathery, like just gorgeously fringed white petals.
Yeah, these petals are they maybe just because I'm on this clam kick.
Yeah,
but they look a bit like the inside of a clamshell. That kind of pearly white, kind of feathered edge.
Yeah, pearly white is a perfect example or perfect descriptor.
They're very, very beautiful flowers.
Yeah, and then they have this like orange, like really dark orange interior where the pistons and the stamen are, and those are covered in pollen, and bees love them, so they just get covered in, or any pollinator, they just get covered in all of the pollen and everything because they're this dark orange color. They just vibrantly stand out. The white on the green, the orange inside the white. They're really spectacular in that regard. But then they end up making this fruit, which is ironically not that great. Like it doesn't like finish it, you know?
Yeah, let's talk about that fruit.
Well, imagine like you have this production, this whole ballet that's put on. The bark, as I noted earlier, is like very smooth, but it kind of pops off and has this mottled, almost camouflage effect to it. The last episode we talked about the rainbow eucalyptus.
Yeah,
it's really similar to that.
It's like a monochromatic rainbow eucalyptus.
Yes, exactly. But it's so gorgeous, like in these really intense earth tones. So you start with this bark, you build onto this next, you have this crescendo with these leaves opening up with these flowers, and then all of a sudden the crescendo crescends, and you get this next little perfect, like, wow, it's this beautiful flower. And then the flower opens up, and the dancer inside is like a dog tearing apart, like, I don't know, some toy, and it doesn't even know it's there, and you're like, oh my god, what is happening? The dog just ripping it apart. No, it's like the dog just came out of a pond.
Yeah.
It's kind of got guck all over it, and you're just like, what that does not match with what I was expecting.
A real anticlimactic ending.
Quite anticlimactic.
The opposite of Return of the King.
Yes, exactly. But it's not that bad. Maybe I went a little extreme there, but it ends up being like this hard 4 or 5 cylindered. I think there's 5 4. It's a dry capsule that kind of looks like a dried rosebud or something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of lame.
Yeah, it's kind of lame. It just doesn't have it. Like everything else about this tree is like spectacular. The foliage during fall turns like a vibrant red, like a thorough red.
Wow.
And then it just is left with this like essentially like dehiscent, dried up like capsule that just kind of is like, and
you know, I don't want to tip my hat to my score later.
Okay.
But I don't even think it needs a flashy fruit.
Ah, okay.
Like,
So
but I will say, if this thing grew a mango, it'd be a perfect 10. Like,
yeah, that's fair. But yeah, well, the buds also are really nice. The buds are kind of these long things. The whole tree is just built for elegance, in my opinion.
yeah, it's a classy tree.
Yeah, I think it's classy. So, I agree. We'll give it the pass on the fruit. The fruit is nothing spectacular, but it has its own, ID characteristics. So, during the wintertime, you don't even need to get close.
Sure.
So, give it a thumbs up for that.
This tree is Ana de Armas.
Is what?
Ana de Armas. She was in Knives Out. She plays she's the caretaker.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I know who you're talking about then.
That throws up when she lies.
Yeah, which is such a funny thing. Like,
I know, I love that.
It's just a silly plot.
That's a good
device. Film. Yeah, it is. Another Daniel Craig. He's everywhere in these episodes.
How about that?
Look at that. Best accent too. It's very, very, very northeastern.
I was gonna say, yeah, okay. Casey, we have some interesting things to talk about.
Yes, we sure do.
Involving the White Tree of Gondor and specimen trees.
Exactly. Of which the Stewartia is a great example of what this whole idea is.
Yes.
Many times.
A well-chosen tree for this episode, Casey.
Right.
And how about an ad from our well-chosen sponsors?
Oh.
We'll be right back with more Completely Arbortrary. I think it's an ad for us. Welcome back to Completely Arbortrary, the podcast about trees and other related topics.
That's us.
Oops, I went into autopilot there for a second, Casey.
Hey, I thought that was good. I like it.
Usually I only say that at the beginning.
Yeah, that's true. Wow. But you know what? Just to make sure that everyone knows, just in case someone's like, "What are you listening to?" Oh, and then we say it immediately.
Yeah, yeah.
How many times have you been like listening to a radio show, like an interview or something on the radio, and then you sit down, you're like, "Oh, who is this? What are we saying?" And then just right then, they're
this
like,
is fresh air.
Yeah, if you're just tuning in, we're talking with, and you're like, "Oh, yes, thank you." It always makes my day when that happens, which is often.
Podcasting's a little different because you control,
yes, yeah,
the dial,
it's
true.
It were. Yeah, but I also still do have to admit, I like just to say, now, if you're just joining us, even though I assume you've been with us the whole time.
I like that.
Yeah, thanks.
It's funny.
Yeah, all right. I'm glad everyone else thinks it's funny, too.
Yes, everyone else being me. Casey, today we're talking Stewartia.
Yes, sir.
In honor of the White Tree of Gondor, the tree that grows in Minas Tirith in Gondor in Lord of the Rings.
Das is right.
And we're going to discuss specifically the idea and the philosophy behind specimen trees.
Correct.
Now, would you please define specimen tree for anyone listening who doesn't know?
Yes. So a specimen tree is a tree that is, it's a broad kind of term, which is a bit of a coverall and anyone can make their own definition. But the definition that I usually go with is a tree that is planted in order to be a big, like, splash of an existent thing in a garden. So if you have or not even a garden, just in a landscape, it is meant to be the prime thing that you see, the big deal, the giant specimen that sit right in the middle. Everything else around it is pushed away. It is the thing that draws your eye. It's the stunner.
Yeah.
In the front, in the main center stage, that kind of stuff.
Can I ask you this?
Yeah.
And if you know or not, but are there certain cultures, tree cultures around the world that value specimen trees more than others? Like, I'm going to say Japanese because I know Japanese are kind of revolutionary gardeners. the Japanese are great at specimen tree, or they kind of started this whole thing. Or,
Yeah.
Is it the Japanese?
I was going to give you that as an example.
Oh, okay.
Yes, but it is more than that. Where specimen trees historically would have been done like if the Japanese made a garden, they would have a specimen tree in the middle of their garden that means something. So this tree represents like the idea of some gardens. They make you walk around it the whole time. You kind of spiral in.
Oh, okay.
And then once you get to the middle, there's this big, like, gorgeous bagouge of a tree.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, I've been building up to that this whole time.
Get your bagoosh merch at arbortrarypod.com.
Exactly, yeah.
I love that. You use that noise for so many different things.
Yeah, I do. And I never thought about it till I did it on this show. And you're like, what was that sound again? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know.
It's the Crowson Stump of Approval soundtrack.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's the same thing.
I think it's spelled B''GOOSH.
Yeah, that's right.
Or SCH.
I think it's SCH. Yeah. I think someday I hope someone does a long cut and just does every sound that we make, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, so yeah, it's meant to be in the center of a place.
It is a centerpiece.
Draws your eye. Okay.
Yeah, and it's the main attraction.
Right.
But at least that's kind of normally what it could be. Some other people have specimen trees that are planted in a collection where you have certain kinds of trees. Maybe they're all the same species. Maybe they all have a certain color. Maybe it's like an arboretum. An arboretum is nothing but specimen trees most of the time.
Interesting.
They want to show off these collections of trees. So each one is in and of itself a specimen tree.
Sure.
But you can also consider a specimen tree some random tree that you planted in the middle of your yard where there's nothing else there. You have green grass that you just douse with fertilizer and you mow every day.
Okay.
And then you get this one tree right there. In the middle.
Bagoosh.
I was going to say bagoosh right in the middle, but it's not really a bagoosh tree. That's just more like I don't care. Just throw it there because we have to plant a tree here. The code says so.
And that tree is going to be like a cherry.
Yeah.
Or
a red maple.
A red maple or a dogwood.
Something like that, yeah. So that is another example of a specimen tree. So you have this spectrum of like purposefulness.
Sure.
There is an article that we'll have a post to on the website. Or not an article, it's a list. It's a place. It looks like the website's called Gardentia, I think is the best way to do it. Or like Gardencia, maybe.
That sounds like a place in Middle Earth.
Yeah, it is. Gardenista is actually what it is. Excuse me. And it looks like it's a gardening firm or like some kind of design firm or I'm calling it propaganda. It's propaganda for what a specimen tree is.
Wow.
And this is an article by her name is Kristen Grannon, and this is published in 2018. And there's some great examples. Like I read through it and I was kind of like, okay, I just want to see what they're saying. I was like, actually, this is pretty good. But they're planted up. Specimen trees are in this case a very good thing, but they really have a large landscape architectural view on what they are. So if you scroll down, it has a bunch of pictures, and one is this courtyard with this gorgeous big live oak growing in it, and it looks like it's in somewhere in California. And this is like the definition of a specimen tree, where it is clearly the dominant, like structural thing in this courtyard. Like it even makes the house look like it means nothing. And that draws your eye, and it's got this really interesting architecture. It covers the whole space. Like I would love to have that as a specimen tree in my backyard every day of the week.
It's really beautiful. I mean, like, I think when choosing a specimen tree, you really want to view the space you're in and find some and I started this with the cadence of a joke, but really I mean, like I would be kind of interested in like recommending trees for specimen trees in any given space. Yeah. I feel like I could be pretty good at that. It's a vibe,
It is. Like, it's totally a vibe. And this is what takes so the reason that I probably failed as a landscape architect is because I don't really carry that like the creative artistic sort of side of me as much as I think I probably should to be a good one.
See, Casey, between the two of us, I feel like we could have a good little business going.
And Alex, you are portraying what what we're going to be kind of leading into in a little bit, which is the utilitarian or the realistic side of what does a tree need and how do trees grow.
A Casey.
Exactly. Versus what looks beautiful and pretty and has the effect that we want to have and create.
An Alex.
Now, a lot of people will just look at the Alex side of that equation.
Sure.
The Alex side of that equation, though the potential is very high, oftentimes the reality is that dog that is shaking the dirty toy after just jumping out of a murky pond.
Right.
Where you're like, oh, I thought that this was going to be a gorgeous, beautiful wedding dress. Instead, it is this musty, mucky mutt.
Wow, episode title.
Yeah, there you go. Specimen trees.
I think like it's probably, to me, I'm guessing it's probably like, as far as importance,
yeah,
on that ratio of practicality to beauty, it should probably be like 80-20.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
what is the point of all this beautiful stuff if it all dies and conflicts with each other and
exactly
makes every other plant sick?
Yeah, if that tree's constantly sick the whole time anyway, and it just looks like shit.
Yeah.
So this is my big thing. As you're going down in this Gardenista article, they have everything from gigantic fig trees to topiary and gigantic phoenix palms and things like this growing all over the place, and then some pine trees that are really beautiful. So go through it, and the thing is, they talk about all the stuff that you need to hit on. How do I choose one? Let's talk about topiary, which Jesus, don't make me gag. I hate topiary.
Oh wow!
I get it. It's fun. I like it as a novelty, but as soon as you take it too seriously, I'm just like, oh my God. It's a boxwood that you shaped into a spiral circle. Get over yourself. That's what I feel. So that is like that. These are all like this broad spectrum of a specimen tree, or in a garden, they really stand out because the garden usually has a lot of small stuff. And then all of a sudden there's like this big vagouge of a massive big tree that is like really stating this is a landmark. This is a place to walk to and around. Like it draws you over to it and under it.
Totally.
So it is literally like a mechanism that if it's used correctly and you get this big gorgeous thing, it will pull you through as draw you. The Japanese garden that I was talking about, that style where like it is it's hidden from view in its entirety until you get to one spot and then you have the whole thing. That is really effective. That's a perfect specimen tree.
I mean, that's like an experience.
Yeah.
That's an experience tree.
It is. And then the same thing with like these courtyards or you have a small yard. It's like I could either plant a bunch of, small trees that won't do really great or one big tree or something anywhere in the middle. Now, if you just take one perfectly gorgeous tree and you let it grow up, but you take really good care of it and it covers your entire backyard and it creates this canopy where you're just like, wow, I'm really comfortable here. Like this is a nice open space. It's like when you go into a big open room with high ceilings, but like also low enough elements that you feel like you're like in a comfortable spot. You just want to sit down and chill.
Yeah.
That is a perfect specimen tree over a courtyard or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are the ways that we actually plant trees as specimen trees. This is like the perfect situation. Someone had a great idea 50 years ago, 60, 80 years ago. They did this. It was well taken care of. Or it was someone whose eyes or who like, I pay a landscape architect to have the 30-year vision to make this happen. And then there are the people who are like, I think a dogwood is pretty. I'm going to plant a dogwood.
Right.
Slam a dogwood in the ground, plant it 6 inches too deep, and don't realize that you planted it in the literal definition of a desert. And you're just like, that tree dies. Why does my dogwood always look so awful? Like, I'm victim of this. I did this. Me and my mom both like dogwoods. It's her favorite tree. I have it tattooed on me right here.
Yeah.
We planted one in a place and we did not water it the way we should, and it's looked like hell. Every day since, every year.
It's still alive?
It's still alive, but
it looks like shit?
Yeah, I should have been watering that 600 times more, but I didn't know. I didn't know.
I want to suddenly defend a group of people here.
Please do.
And it's a little bit, I think I'm being a little bit contrary.
Okay.
A bit of a contrarian. But not everybody knows the things that arborists know about landscape design.
You're right.
And, a sweet, I almost said old middle-aged. Wow. Sorry, everyone.
Old middle-aged. What, like 46?
I'm 16 all of a sudden. I think if you're 30, you're dead. A middle-aged, woman living in Tempe, Arizona might have grown up with dogwoods, doesn't know a fucking thing about trees, but it reminds her of her grandmother, and she plants it in her yard and it dies.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
I'm, of course, editorializing and sensationalizing this non-controversy.
I don't even know if you could buy a dogwood in Tempe, Arizona.
Well, you have it shipped in, Casey.
Okay, there you go.
But no, I suddenly feel a sense of, a sense of, hey, it's not their fault.
That's fair.
Like somebody living in the suburbs who doesn't know a thing about trees, but just wants a special tree in the middle of their yard because that's what you do because it's a nice look.
So I think you're good to defend. I think because that's the right idea. I think maybe I'm biased towards the people who are like forced to do this, where they have an opportunity in front of them. And I think of mostly like the codes of the Portland building, code, where it's like you have to plant X amount of trees because trees are important, but they leave because it's just another box you have to check. The developers who are doing this, they loathe it. Like if you say, hey, you have to put a roof on your house, it's code, they're going to be like, oh, you're making me put a goddamn roof on my house?
Sure.
And it's like, you guys are they're so awful.
They hate guidelines.
Exactly. And I'm sorry, I know I'm generalizing, but I promise you, if you go and talk to, like, you get involved in this is how people feel. Meet the bare minimum requirements to get the highest paycheck. The shittiest, cheapest trees, plant them wherever meets definition, and then move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
That's my like experience that mostly I have to deal with.
Sure.
And
that's fine. I see that your opinion is based on your real world experience with these people.
But you also are good to say, hey, that's not every experience. Mm-hmm. The one difference is the people who are doing this, like, hey, I really want to plant a dogwood. They would probably go to a local nursery, or maybe they'd go to a Home Depot, which, if I could real fast plug, don't ever go to Home Depot for your plants. Go anywhere else, any native, not even native, just a local nursery.
For sure.
Because they will have their finger on the pulse of what actually works and what works well. Then, Alex.
And they take care of their plants.
Yes, most of the time. Ideally, they at least should, right?
I have bought most of my house plants from like local small plant stores. Mm-hmm. And then I've bought a couple from like IKEA.
Yeah.
And the IKEA ones, without fail, have all fucking died.
And they don't do
and
well.
Look like shit and have never grown an inch in their life.
It's because that is a factory farm for plants.
Yes.
Whereas I guess, other places, they're still factory farms. So,
And then every plant I've ever gotten from Sotheby's has just like thrived in this home.
So if we can plug real fast, Sotheby's, go to Sotheby's.
Yeah, go to Sotheby's.
Yeah. God, I really want them to want to advertise on our show. We talk about them so often.
Well, we haven't asked them if they want to.
Oh,
so that's the first step.
Yeah. Anyway, that is the right move. Like they do good work, and I
keep praying that they'll get in touch with us.
Yeah. Who listens to it?
It's just not working.
Dang it.
God has yet to answer my prayers for a Sotheby advertisement.
It's going to get there. Gandalf is going to go talk to him, okay?
I wish.
We have to look to the east in 3 days.
If Ian McKellen walked into your plant store and asked and insisted that you run an ad on this podcast, how would you say no?
You can't. Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, God. Okay, where were we?
I don't fucking know.
Plants, the specimen trees.
Yes. Don't go to Home Depot.
Go to a local nursery.
Yeah.
And the reason is if you are this person in Tempe, Arizona, you say, hey, my grandmother really liked dogwood trees. I really want to plant a dogwood tree. They're going to look at you and be like, there's no possible way you can plant a dogwood tree here in Tempe, Arizona.
Yeah.
However, let me take you down to the aisle of where we do have trees that do grow here really well. And if they even know a quarter of something about the plants that they're selling, then someone is going to be able to tell you, well, what's your soil like? Or, I mean, if you're in the desert, they're going to be like, oh, you live in the desert. We got this.
Yeah.
So they're able to help direct you towards what it is and what the conditions are. Rather, they know the conditions, so they're able to direct you towards a tree that does well in those conditions. If we take it outside of Tempe and we move it up to somewhere like Oregon, where the condition ranges going west to east are vastly different, but then also inside that area, it's vastly different. You could be at the valley bottom in the Willamette Valley, where essentially you get a bunch of rain that becomes bone dry for the rest of the year. You could be in a forested section. You could be over in the east where it's bone dry all year, except for maybe a little bit in the spring. So all those different little things, if you are in an area that has more clay or it's more sandy or the soils are a certain thing, you can end up getting a situation where you're planting the right tree in the right place, or you're planting the wrong tree in the right place, or the wrong place. So someone says, I have a yard, I want to plant a tree. I'm like, well, great, here you go. Let me give you one quick example that's relative to our Stewartia, pseudocellia.
Okay.
Otherwise known as the Japanese Stewartia. We might have not been clear about that.
Oh, wow.
Best in light shade, at least in hottest part of summer. It wants to be in light shade. Prefers moist, cool, humus-rich, slightly acidic soil with good drainage. Now,
sounds a lot like Casey Clapp.
it sounds exactly like me. I want to be in light shade. I want to have my toes dug into this humus.
When you're looking for a new apartment, you ask the landlady, how's the drainage?
Yeah, how's the drainage? Is there humus in the soil? I really need humus.
I don't know what that means.
Yes. Oh, yeah, definitely. So it's that is like the Stewartia is known to be a tree that really likes cush conditions.
Okay.
When it gets those cush conditions, it just crushes it.
That's more of an Alex type then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then look at you. You're crushing it. The great conditions, though, for exactly what you're looking for. Humus rich, well drained, slightly acidic, moist, cool.
Yes.
Not too hot, not too cold.
Okay.
But we humans have decided in our grand vision of the way things should be, these small little things that have to do with what this tree needs to survive doesn't really matter. Just put it in the dirt, make sure you give it some water, call it good.
Sure.
So that is what happens so often, and that is the biggest qualm that I have with specimen trees, is that a lot of times the landscape architecture or architect has this vision of what it could be and then plants a tree that will not make that vision a reality.
Right.
Whether or not it is it's the right size tree, or there's another piece of infrastructure that's causing trouble. This happens all the time in architectural renderings of big buildings. This has happened to me in Portland often, where they have this big, gigantic building that they're going to put in someplace. And they make this gorgeous, watercolor drawing of it, and then they put these big trees next to it that are I've literally had to go in this much detail previously, where I counted up the levels, the stories of how tall those trees were rendered on this drawing.
Yeah,
it's a computer drawing, so it looks real, but it looks really detailed, but still sketch like. And so I count up. I'm like, okay, so that goes between the third and fourth story, and then I go out on site, and there's power lines around the whole thing, and all the power lines are going to stay there. And I'm like, this is a completely falsified vision of what this could look like.
Yeah.
It cannot look like it. I've asked, you're not moving these power lines. Therefore, this will be no taller than 25 or 30 feet. So 25 or 30 feet takes us maybe up to the second story. That's it. So this grand looking thing that these, people are really trying to sell you on is just not reality. And then sometimes they try to pop in, they're like, you're like, well, we have to plant trees anyway. So that's great. Okay, well, what trees are we going to plant? Let's plant these nice dogwood trees and this Stewartia and these snowbells and all these trees that are supposed to be beautiful. And everyone likes a big, beautiful, flowery tree as a specimen tree planted in front of their whatever. But then all these trees, all those three trees that I just named, prefer to be in cush environments, just like what we described just now for the Stewartia.
And right next to a building in the gravel is not
it's not going to do it because and it's been completely compacted. They brought in some soil that's soil. It's dead, inert stuff that just has the definition of clay and sand and organic matter.
Casey put soil in air quotes.
Yeah, I did. And so then you plant these trees here, and you're like, yeah, it's going to be beautiful. This is a Stewartia. It's going to be a big, gorgeous, beautiful tree. It's going to be like a ballet happening in front of your eyes all season. And it's like, no, it's going to die in 2 years. Promise you.
Here's my proposal. And maybe this is already the case, Casey.
Okay.
Case.
Yeah.
These people should work in pairs.
Yes.
They should have one practical super tree knowledge person.
Yep.
And one pie in the sky, artsy, creative type.
I think that would be perfect.
And they work in tandem.
Man, to see those two like get together, that is the quintessential like rift between landscape architects and arborists.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, in fact, arborists constantly make fun of landscape architects because they have these ideas and they're like, yeah, sure, plant this right here. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be just perfect. And then we go and we look at it and we're like, the soil won't even support a rhododendron.
Right.
You want to plant this tree, you know? So you're right, but one other thing...
It might cause some fun drama.
Oh, it would. Honestly, that's going to be like the Odd Couple.
Yes.
Kind of like the Odd Couples firm.
The show no one would watch.
Yeah.
It's the least interesting sitcom idea ever.
Well, the other thing with this is that I think those pragmatic people and the landscape architecture folks, if they just take a step away from flowers. Flowers are beautiful.
Huh.
They're just gorgeous and lovely.
Uh-huh.
But you remember when I took you to that site, and everyone else, go to the website, go to this episode, click on that first link that says tree propaganda or specimen tree propaganda. That is this Gardenista. And that first tree, that oak tree, has 0 flowers. It is a evergreen live oak, which grows in this beautiful fashion. So that tree is not a specimen tree because of the flowers. It's a specimen tree because of the shape and the architecture and the capaciousness of its canopy in this specific spot.
Totally.
That is the same you can do for a bunch of other trees where you could have a red maple as a specimen tree, but please, dear God, don't do it. Have any other tree. But you can have a tree that is a specimen tree for a bunch of other gorgeous, gorgeous, lovely reasons.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because as we were noting, have these two people work together. Alex, I will take you through October 5th, 2001, Blooming Backyard, the 12 best specimen trees, shrubs, and plants to bring focus and attention.
2001?
2001 is when this came... Sorry, 2021 is when it came out.
Okay.
And they have a quick little bit like, what is a specimen tree? Growing living art. And there's like a Japanese maple and some other things. And they have some topiary and some espalier trees. You remember that? They're trees that grow and they take the branches and they put them perfectly level, like on the side of a wall or something.
Yes.
Yeah, it's called a spalier.
Spalier.
And then you go down and they're giving some examples of what trees to do. They show monkey puzzle trees, some cactus, and then when they really get down to it, they give you a list of trees that you can do. The first one is a weeping larch. Beautiful. Great. How big is that tree going to get? Almost not big at all. It's weeping. It stays very, very small.
Okay.
Then they have a couple other weeping varieties of trees that I don't support, like a Betula pendula, the weeping birch. The tree's already weeping. It's in the name. Yet they're planting these weird, wacky trees that aren't going to get big at all. They're going to look really funny. And then it goes...
Hold on.
Oh, Alex. Sorry. We've been doing this too long. I feel like you need to whack me with something. Casey's going off. Bring him back.
Literally the only way for me to interrupt was to yell at you. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just running through these as fast as I could.
When you said it's already in the name, what does that mean?
Betula pendula is
Right.
a scientific name.
Uh-huh.
Pendula, pendulous. The tree, as it grows up, has pendulous branches that hang down.
So it's just weeping once.
No, there's a weeping variety of this tree.
Betula pendula, of a weeping tree. Okay,
so
Casey
it's like
is
a
showing
weeping tree.
It looks like it's upside down.
It does.
It looks like it's growing toward the ground. It's weeping so hard.
It is. That is exactly what it's doing.
Wow.
And so that is...
Looks so bad.
It does. And so these are not going to be big, gorgeous specimen tree.
Yeah.
Birches are going to die in 30 seconds from bronze birch borer. The weeping Norway spruce that we just covered, it's a lovely, wacky little thing. But again, plant this like on the side of your doorway. Like it's not a specimen tree. It's going to take decades if you keep on pulling it upright so that it like lignifies upright.
Looks like a bunch of trees that are like melting.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And those are the first three. Then the next one are the smoke bush, which is a small little tree that has these big smoky things. It looks like the flowers are like little puffs of smoke at the end of it,
okay.
which is really pretty. I've never seen one that has this purple color that grows in any way shapely and beautiful.
Yeah.
They look like a bunch of clouds that then sprout truffle trees and then tip over.
Wow.
Yeah, is that beautiful or what?
Gorgeous. What a specimen.
Right? And then they have magnolias. I love magnolias. Beautiful, beautiful big flowers. And this one that they show is not even in a specimen location. It's tucked into a little grove of trees. And if you plant a magnolia, holy shit, can it be a stunning, gorgeous thing?
Yeah.
But magnolias constantly are planted in places that are way too hot for them. And they don't get very big. They stay really small. So you get that one burst. Great. I like the magnolia. I think a magnolia would be a wonderful specimen tree.
Yeah.
That is probably the top one. The next one is the burning bush, Euonymus alatus. I hate this. This is just the worst shrub.
You know, I guess the word specimen doesn't imply beauty.
It doesn't, but
Quasimodo was a specimen.
Okay, there you go. I think that's ironic use of the term, sir. But then, you know what? They also say arborvitae is a good option.
They call it arborvitae too.
They do, and
not the northern white cedar.
Yeah, not the northern white cedar. They call it arborvitae.
Okay.
So this is why it's also propaganda. Is that the term specimen tree has been co-opted. If it's used as someone who's looking at your space, they decide what it should be, and they say, yes, you have your space. You go talk to someone, and you can come to an agreement. What would work best for what you're going for?
Yeah.
Then you can come up with some great specimen trees. Used correctly, the right tree, the right place, in the right way. Oh my God, it's stunning.
Yeah.
Used in the wrong way because you are looking through like best specimen trees from my front yard, and you go to this Blooming Backyards website and you're like, oh, that's really nice. I could plant a yew. And you have to wait 500 years for that yew to become a specimen tree. So you're a little behind.
I'll plant a major oak.
Yeah, right. So it's like people, you go to Home Depot and you go to these places where they're just going to sell you these dumb cherry trees, which again, cherry trees, spectacular for 30 seconds of the year.
Right.
Then they're just kind of who cares, and they look awful if you don't take proper exact care of them because they're just really persnickety trees. You plant a Stewartia in the wrong place, it's going to shrivel up and die because it is not a tree that wants to be challenged. It is a tree that wants the cush. It wants to be there. Give it, it's going to just be like,
Now that you say all this, Casey, about the Stewartia liking a lush lifestyle,
yeah.
I don't think the white tree of Gondor is a Stewartia.
Well,
that thing is at a fucking 2,000 foot evolution.
Now,
What's the word I'm thinking of? Elevation. Jesus.
So I thought about this.
That thing is in the mountains.
Yes.
In the cold, hard wind. What's the deal, Case? I guess it's a dead tree is the whole point of the white tree of Gondor.
That is it.
Okay. All right. I wasn't putting it together.
Well, now we're full circle because I believe you have some lore to tell us about this tree.
Casey, do I ever?
Alex.
However, before we get into that, we need to rate this tree,
Yes.
Casey. Our golden cone of power rating. Our last one. I'll miss it, so.
I know, me too. But honestly, once it's cast into Mount Doom, that's good with me.
Yeah, we got to dump him in with a bucket.
Yeah. Well, I'll carry it up, Frodo.
Oh, boy. We're talking about this later. Casey and I are fighting now.
What?
Here's how it works, Case. We're going to give some final thoughts on the Stewartia and then give it a rating of 0 to 10 golden cones of power. Forged in the fires of Mount Doom by Sauron.
Yep.
Casey, as our resident expert,
Let's do it.
we'll begin with you.
So, as I noted at the beginning, I find this tree to be the definition of a ballerina, just like fully coming into flower. I don't know if that's the proper metaphor I should be using, but I'm gonna stick with it. I think it is a stunning tree. The bark is so beautiful. The form understated.
Yeah.
The delicacy yet strength, because it's a very hard wooded tree, is undeniable. The flowers are not in your face, but if you know where to look, if you see one, you'll be like, oh my God, they're tucked in everywhere. It's like you see one bird flutter, then all of a sudden your eyes adjust and they can pick out all the birds in this thing.
Right.
That's how I feel with Stewartia. Also, it is underplanted.
Wow.
Though I have said many times that there is overplanted trees, in this episode I have noted you should not plant what you think is going to be a specimen tree in the wrong place, or it will be a poopy tree. The Stewartia, there are so many places that is a perfect place for a Stewartia to grow. And they are just not planted because people want to plant a dogwood or a magnolia or a cherry tree. All those trees are fine except for the cherry tree. But you could plant a Stewartia and have a uniquely underrated and very under the radar tree that kind of pops up. And it's like, wow, what's that beautiful tree?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a Stewartia. What's a Stewartia? I don't have time for this.
And you whip your cape around and leave. Good day, sir.
Yeah, good day. Wow, they invited me over for brunch. That's really weird.
I just got here.
So that is I just got. Sorry, that was really funny. It's funny for me to imagine.
Casey and I are delirious.
Yeah, we know. So I think the Stewartia as a tree to be planted is easily I'm gonna go an 8.7.
Very good.
8.7.
Yeah.
It is a delicate and just beautifully crafted tree.
Wonderful.
I think it needs to be planted 1,000 times more.
Wonderful. A rare underplanted tree.
Yes, very rare. Underplanted. And again, I should just reiterate, I think it should be planted everywhere that it is a good tree to be planted in.
Of course.
It's a good
place for to be planted.
in. Thank you.
Yes.
Alex, what do you think?
8.7 golden cones of power from Casey Clapp. Casey, throw those cones in the fire. Nice.
It's done.
Now my turn.
Wait, you were carrying a ring this whole time too?
Wow, what a twist.
Yeah, what a twist. And he wasn't complaining about it.
He's got like a janitor's key ring of rings.
He's been collecting.
Here's all the rest.
Here's all the rest. Frodo, you are just so pathetic.
I've got 17.
I've got 17.
I think the Stewartia, the more I learned about it, the more I liked it.
Okay.
I like that it really requires perfect conditions to flourish. I love the flowers. I like the leaves. Even though they're bordering on utility leaf, they still have a little flair to them.
Yeah, okay, that's true.
The bark, stunning. I love the look of it in the fall. Amazing.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. The rest of the morphology is gorgeous. It's it's so delicate and narrow and there's no hard edges. It just looks like a big sprawling, beautiful. I think a ballerina is a great way to describe it, Casey.
Perfect. It's art. Art in motion.
Super graceful. I'm giving it a flat 9.0 golden cones of power.
9.0.
Yeah,
what a tree.
I think it just hits that barrier of 9.0.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And here I will drop my ring into the fire bush. Bagoosh.
Bagoosh. Oh, that was very understated. Yeah. Once the one ring of power goes in, all the rest are kind of like, man, it's just metal now.
Well, it hardens. That lava hardens immediately.
Yeah, it really does.
You got to throw them all at once. Hey, that was our review of the Stewartia. We hope you liked it.
What a
Casey,
beautiful thing.
we got a bit of a segment here.
We do. We got to do this.
To round out our discussion of Lord of the Rings on this tree podcast, we thought it would be appropriate to talk about a piece of mythology from the Lord of the Rings canon.
Yep.
This is the story of the two trees of Valinor, also known as the two trees of the Valar, or the trees of the Valar, or simply the two trees.
Uh-huh.
There's that episode title.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Casey, these two trees are named Laurelin, which is the gold tree, and Telperion, which is the silver tree.
Oh.
So we're gonna just talk about this story, this myth, and yeah, I'm gonna do my best. I am Tolkien.
You're Tolkien-esque for sure.
Well, no, Tolkien is famously dense.
Yeah.
God bless anybody who can make their way through the Silmarillion. Just a masterwork of a human being, and understand what's happening.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about these two trees. It's gonna be very base level. So if you're like a Tolkien, Tolkien head, and maybe just don't pay attention to this because it'll drive you insane.
Because you're gonna hate it.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best here. It'll probably be about the same qualities when I talk about Greek myths. So we have Laurelin, the gold tree, and Telperion, the silver tree.
Okay.
These trees brought light into the land of the Valar. And the Valar, Casey, you can kind of look at as I kind of equate them to like the Olympians.
Okay, yeah.
Of Middle Earth.
The Valar.
They're like the gods of power. They kind of create and destroy and all that jazz.
Okay.
So these two trees brought light into their land in ancient times.
Wow.
These were destroyed by Melkor with help from Ungoliant, who is a primal spider.
Yeah, I just looked at that. I saw that primal spider, and I was like, how do I access my primal spider? There's got to be a yoga move for that.
Yes. The primal spiders is kind of advanced for me.
I'm sure it is.
And Ungoliant is the mother of Shelob, who appears in Return of the King.
That is very true.
So here's kind of how it goes. The first sources of light in all of the world. At this point, it was not Middle Earth. It was something else. It was called Arda.
Some nebulous space.
Yes, it was called Arda, and it had a few different continents.
Okay.
The two first sources of light were lamps. There was Ilwyn, which was a silver lamp in the north, and Ormal, which was a golden lamp in the south.
Okay.
These were destroyed by Melkor.
What?
Melkor, I'm going to take a really broad stroke and say Melkor was like the OG Sauron.
I was gonna say he seems like the king of like the everything. Like he was there for the world and like created this. Like he was like I don't know the primal Sauron.
Yes, he was on a, and I'm referencing one wiki to rule them all, the Lord of the Rings wiki. He was the first Dark Lord.
Yeah,
and the primordial source of evil. So
Gotcha.
he's evil incarnate. He destroyed these two lamps.
God, what a jerk!
Terrible thing to do. It took all the light out of the world. And before that, the only lights were the stars.
Whoa,
it was very dark.
Okay.
The Valar, those gods, they went to this place called Valinor, and one of the Valar, named Yavanna, sang into existence the two trees, the silver Telperion and the golden Laurelin, possibly sort of in remembrance of the two lamps.
Yeah, okay.
To replace the two lamps because they are gold and silver.
Yeah.
Telperion, which was the silver lamp, the silver tree, was considered male, and Laurelin female. Now this is interesting because later this will come into play. But basically these two. Well, I won't spoil it. Never mind.
Oh gosh. Okay, we all want to know though.
Each tree was a source of light. Telperion's, of course, silver, and Laurelin's gold.
Okay.
Telperion had dark leaves that were silver on one side and had kind of a silvery dew that collected as a source of water or light.
Yeah.
Imagine like glowing drops of water. Kind of a lovely idea.
Okay.
Laurelin, the gold tree, had gold trimmed leaves, and her dew was collected by one of the Valar.
Yeah.
So one day at this point lasted 12 hours, and each tree would give off 7 hours of light, alternating.
Yeah.
But they would overlap by an hour. And this was the origin of a dawn and a dusk, of both gold and silver light shining at once.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that beautiful?
It is beautiful. Like, also, I like the idea that the trees did this from like these two separate areas, you know?
Yeah.
Like one shone and the other shone. Like it very much is a cascading of light coming and going.
Well, Casey, that plays into this next part.
Oh? What?
Melkor, remember him?
Fucking Melkor.
Melkor became jealous. Who knows why?
What?
He's evil.
Why would he be jealous? I'm so curious. He's just like, I feel like that's, you just pick something to be jealous of and you just like, you commit to it.
Yeah, you just stick to your guns.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm jealous, but I am.
Yeah, but I am, and I'm going to react
I'm going
to
to
it.
stay mad.
Yeah, I'm going to stay mad.
Melkor enlisted the help of the giant spider creature.
Wait, ungulate again?
Ungoliant.
Ungoliant.
Yes,
Ungulate,
the mother of
that's
Shelob.
It's an animal.
And together they destroyed the two trees.
Again? So they
Yes.
destroyed the two lamps first, and then they destroyed the two trees afterwards.
Yes.
What do they have against light?
Well, he's evil incarnate. He loves the darkness.
Guess so.
He's all about death and dark.
Wow.
Yeah, he struck them with a spear, and then the spider devoured them. She ate them on up.
Whatever life and light remained of them.
Yes, she ate all the light.
Wow. I didn't know that in the lore that the spiders ate light. Like that sounds scary.
Yeah, that's some real mythology shit.
Yeah. Wow.
So again, the gods reacted. The Valar reacted.
Yeah. What did they do?
Well, they succeeded in reviving Telperion's last flower and Laurelin's last fruit, excuse me.
Okay.
Two last pieces of these trees of light. And they turned this flower and this fruit into the moon and the sun, respectively.
But this is where you were talking about earlier, is that the golden one became the moon. Is that correct?
No, Casey.
It was opposite?
The silver one became the moon. But if you remember, Telperion was male.
Yes.
Which makes the moon, in Lord of the Rings, they refer to the moon as he.
Yes.
And the Laurelin, which it became her last, her last fruit became the sun. In Lord of the Rings, the sun is always referred to as she, which is reverse of a lot of mythologies I'm familiar with.
Exactly.
From Earth times.
From Earth, from the OG Earth. Or,
yes, from
whatever.
top Earth.
Yeah, Earth. Yes, exactly. That is so fascinating. Like I love that little like extra addition into there. To be like, well, in this world, actually, the female is also the intense creator.
Yeah, there you go.
How cool. Okay, so then, keep going, because don't these trees have something to do with our tree of Gondor?
Casey, yes. So the tree of Gondor, the white tree of Gondor, which can be found in Minas Tirith in the courtyard there.
Uh-huh.
I just had a moment of clarity.
Ooh.
If somebody is listening to this and has no interest in Lord of the Rings, I don't know, I guess I feel bad.
Hey, don't worry about it. Our cones are our own.
Yeah, man.
So are our trees, because this. Keep listening. Here, we'll give it a spoiler. We're gonna wrap this back around to our subject tree.
Here we go.
Promise.
So Telperion, who is destroyed,
Yep,
was the silver tree, right? Had an ancestor, and the ancestor's name was Galathilion.
Ooh, that's a great name.
If you will. So here's how that came to be. The first elves that came to this land, they loved Telperion.
Yeah.
So one of the Valar, these gods, made a second tree to stand in the elven city, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The tree they named Galathilion was identical to Telperion, except that it gave no light.
Oh, wait. So it didn't give its light. So it was just like almost a clone, but like it didn't have that special godliness to it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a mortal clone.
Yeah, it was like Hercules.
Yeah. Okay. That's exactly what I was thinking. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it had a lot of seedlings. So these seedlings were planted all over the place. One of these was planted on the Isle of Tol Eressëa, and they named it Celeborn. Huh. Now, a seedling of Celeborn, so that's the third ancestor, is Celeborn, right?
Gotcha.
A seedling of Celeborn was brought as a gift to the Númenóreans.
Okay.
And if you remember, Casey, Númenor was the kingdom of men.
Oh, yes.
It was an island.
Okay.
And do you remember one of the characters in Lord of the Rings who's a Númenórean?
No. Gandalf.
No. Aragorn.
Thank you.
Aragorn is a descendant of Numenor. He is one of the Dunedain.
I gotcha.
So he was a descendant of the first men, I believe.
Okay, all right. The first men from the fist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. This tree was known as Nimloth.
Yeah.
It was the white tree of Numenor. So we're getting closer, right?
Yeah, okay. So this is now the white tree of Numenor.
Yes.
Okay.
It survived through most of that realm's duration, but when Sauron eventually corrupted the king and had him chop it down.
Oh, God. He corrupted the whole island. Oh,
Yes.
that's so terrible.
However, Isildur, remember Isildur?
The famous, yeah.
Yes. He managed to save a piece of a fruit from that tree.
Wow.
Of this fruit later came the white trees of Gondor.
That's amazing. So he then planted it in Gondor.
In Minas Ithil.
Okay.
In the Second Age. That tree died.
Yeah.
Replanted in Minas Anor.
Okay.
Like a sapling from it, I guess.
Gotcha.
That tree died. It was replanted in Minas Tirith. That tree died. It was replanted in Minas Tirith. So the one that we see in the movies, Casey.
Yes, okay.
And that we know of from the book is the fourth generation of that tree.
So the fourth generation of that tree, but planted in the same spot where it's continually died.
Yes.
Huh.
And guess what? It
Yeah.
died again.
Yeah, it did.
And the lore goes that after the events of Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
Aragorn and Gandalf went off somewhere and found another sapling, came back and replanted a new white tree of Gondor. And
Where would they have to go?
I'm not totally sure.
Stunning.
It's on the wiki.
Yeah.
But I bet you anything that tree survived. Because so did the hope of men.
Oh, and thus ends our beautiful saga.
That's that.
Now, Alex, to wrap that up in a bow, I bet you this tree is I think that the Stewartia is the top earth descendant of the white tree of Gondor.
I would agree with you, Casey.
And the reason being, it sounds like the tree of Gondor needs some pretty cush conditions. Maybe magically speaking, those conditions have to be, magically cush
Potentially.
with magic. However, based on what I'm hearing, this is the wrong tree for the wrong place.
Yes.
Because it's died consistently, and each time they plant a new one back and it dies again.
Yeah.
So they either got to move somewhere where the magic is thorough and they don't get corrupted.
Yeah.
Maybe that's this place now because of climate change. This volcano's exploded because this ring's been put into it. This mountain climate is now going to get a little bit warmer. Maybe it's going to work out better for this tree if the soil and the water regime is right. And the magic regime is correct.
But see, that tree is a metaphor.
For the corruption of man kind of thing? Or?
Well, I don't know. Oh, it's an important descendant of a tree that was there at the beginning.
All right. I
So
see.
it doesn't really matter if it survives or not. They just need it there.
They just need it there. Yeah.
It's an important piece of their culture.
There you go. And then thus it becomes a very, good specimen tree because it represents this big thing. It has a very metaphorical thing to it.
Precisely.
Now, what I hope is that they have an arborist come and take a look at it and make sure that the soils are good and they know how to water it and all these kinds of things.
Yeah.
Because I could see someone standing there like wearing a hard hat, looking at him planting this tree and just shaking their head and like leaning over to the elves and be like, this fucking thing's going to die again. They just didn't listen to me. The soil's all wrong. It's all compacted.
And
They
the elves
planted
are like, we know.
yeah, no. It's elves in hard hats who are basically just shaking their heads as these men are planting the wrong tree in the wrong place.
These men will never learn.
Oh God, that just makes me giggle to no end.
That was the tale of the two trees of Valinor. Casey, it's time for our completely arbitrary Q&A.
Alrighty.
This week, our question comes from Sawyer.
What's up, Sawyer?
Sawyer asks, I am writing you because I'm curious what your thoughts are on the ability for plants to communicate via pheromones.
Ooh.
We know from Peter Wallenben and David Attenborough that they do use pheromones. So specifically, I was listening to the ginkgo tree episode of our show, Casey.
Oh, that's a good one.
I remember Casey had mentioned the putrid smell from the females. Do you think that smell is an attractant to the males? It's a nice thought anyway. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you both. Sawyer, we appreciate you as well.
Back at you.
Case, what do you think about pheromones?
That is such a good question. So Peter Wallenben, for those of you who may not know, is the author of the famed book, The Hidden Life of Trees.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with The Secret Life of Plants. And he is essentially wore out the idea that trees are sentient community living dwellers that care and love and feel and want and all that stuff. The book is just literally thick of that. It's wonderful in one regard where it really does, bring up these science-based things. In fact, he goes waxes poetic about Suzanne Simard's work, which we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Oh, David Wallenben does?
Yeah, he brings her up specifically in his book as the researcher doing this work.
I didn't know they were contemporaries. My timeline's all fucked up.
Yeah. So they are. Yeah, that book came out probably 5 years, 10 years ago, something like that.
Oh, okay.
And then her book just came out 3 years ago, maybe.
I honestly thought that The Secret Life of Trees was from the 80s.
Oh, no. You mean the Hidden Life of Trees. The Hidden Life of Trees.
Secret Life of Plants.
Yes, that came out in the 1980s.
Hidden Life of Trees.
Yes.
Boy, correct. I'm conflating all over the place.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. Our brains are mush.
Yeah.
Regardless, they are contemporaries.
Okay.
We'll leave it at that.
Apologies.
But so they initially started saying trees are way more actively doing stuff than what we thought. We thought there were just these big sticks in the ground that just grow up and constantly fight everybody else. But turns out they're connected underground by not only root grafting, but fungal mycorrhizal networks that go between all these trees.
Right.
And they then said, well, what else do they do? And they kept on, looking into it. And they ended up finding that, well, even if you don't have them connected by roots, there's signaling that goes on by plants, broadly speaking, including trees, about different pheromone or different things that are happening. The quintessential example is an insect comes through, and that insect starts chomping on tree A. Tree A then starts putting out different chemicals to try to stop that insect, distasteful things or poisons of whatever it can do. And sometimes that'll stop that individual insect. But as that goes out into the world, the tree isn't always necessarily attacking one thing. It's more like you get stressed and your whole body starts giving out stress hormones, right?
Yeah.
That's a similar thing where you're not getting your stress hormone is not attacking, this one thing that's biting you. Your whole body is going into attack mode.
Sure, yeah.
That's what trees do. So their whole body's like, whoa, something's up. Start giving off these enzymes and these chemicals, and they start basically putting themselves into defense mode.
And they put that shit out in the air?
Exactly, yeah, because it goes off and it becomes a volatile organic compound, which is essentially something we can't really smell all the time, but sometimes you can, like, the pine scent smell. It's a volatile organic compound.
How about that?
Where as soon as it is exposed to air, it volatilizes and goes in, and then we smell it.
So those gases and things float on the breeze to tree B next door.
Then tree B
gets a whiff.
Yeah, tree B's like, whoa, what's going on over there?
Yeah.
It doesn't, if once a tree starts making it, so let's say it bites a leaf A on tree A, this insect. Leaf A, it has that initial response where it's like, oh, I'm getting attacked. Attack means this. It then reacts and starts putting out this hormone. This then gets picked up by all the other leaves through the veins and also across air because it volatilizes as that thing's chomping down. So then everything near it starts to have that same reaction because if that chemical is made, it then begets it's getting made by other parts of that same tree. So it's a reaction where as soon as you smell it, you start doing the same thing. So that whole tree starts from one thing, it spreads throughout that entire tree, then it goes over to the other tree, and the other tree is like, no, I smell that. When I smell that, I do that.
Yeah.
And it starts to produce this same compound. So all these trees in a certain area start to make these whole compounds. We wouldn't necessarily call them pheromones.
Sure.
Because most of the time, I think that term's used more for for animals and insects.
Yes.
But for all intents and purposes, it's the same thing.
Sure.
And so then these pheromones will go from tree A to tree B, and tree B will be like, whoa, I gotta start putting out these chemicals because I'm being attacked. It doesn't necessarily think it is being attacked. It just says an attack is happening. Get on alert.
Yeah.
That tree's now on alert. Then tree C, D, E, F, all the rest of them in this area will start putting on this alert, and then that insect will be like, whoa, this is not good. I don't like the taste of this. Goes to tree B, and it's like, whoa, this tree tastes bad too. Then it leaves entirely. So the plants, one gets attacked and then warns the others.
That's great.
Goes through the air for sure. It also will go through the roots, where tree A will start producing this. It'll get put through the entire tree into the fungus, out the other side of the fungus into tree B. And tree B will start doing it, but it has been conditioned to do it because it got signals through the underground network.
Casey,
So you have two.
my last Lord of the Rings reference, my analogy of this series.
Okay.
Remember when Gondor is poised to be attacked by Mordor,
Yes.
and Merry climbs the tower and lights the bonfire?
Yes, the signal fire.
Yes, and then all the signal fires light. I always cry during that part.
It's because it's so beautiful.
They light all the way to Rohan.
Yeah.
And Rohan decides to go help Gondor.
all right.
Oh, God. Even
Yeah.
talking about it, I get a little choked up.
It's so good. It's like if they ask, we'll go, and
Yeah.
then they're not going to ask, and then he does it.
Yeah.
It's so good.
He does it anyway.
That is the exact example where it's not that those fires are touching. They didn't actually communicate. It's just some big thing is like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now this, and then they go and they get the message. It's exactly the same thing.
Cool.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. I'm not going to take that away.
Thank you, Casey.
Yes.
Sawyer, I know it's not a perfect, but
Hey, we're going with it.
thank you so much, Sawyer, for your question.
Yes, and Sawyer, I should add, if you ever want to hear more about this, the Susan Simard's book specifically goes into more detail about these kind of fungal network connections. And also, there is a bunch of other stuff about there, but they do a lot of garden stuff with like tomatoes, where it's like, does this tomato warn that tomato?
Oh,
and
interesting.
then it happens because who cares about trees? Tomatoes, those are the things we got to worry about.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot of research out there. It is thorough, and trees and ecosystems, plants communicate way more than we ever even imagined. We don't even know we don't even know a tenth of it, and we don't even know what they're saying all the time. We just know they're saying it.
How about that?
There you go.
If you have a question about Casey for trees, email us at arbitrarypod@gmail.com, ARBORTRARY pod. Join us on Instagram at arbitrarypod, or join the Patreon. I'm melting down, Casey.
Get onto the Patreon.
Patreon.com/arbitrarypod. You can join the Arboretum and get 2 bonus episodes a month and be involved with a lot of different stuff. You can join the Cone of the Month Club. Get a unique die-cut cone sticker illustrated by an independent artist sent to you every month in your mailbox, your physical mailbox. It's a great way to support the pod. And another great way to support the pod is to rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. Casey Clapp.
Alex Crowson.
We've made it to the end of this odyssey.
This has been so much fun.
Let the Eagles carry us home.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on my eagle and go home now.
I want to be picked up by the talons so I can just sleep midair.
Yeah, but like hopefully they don't crush, you can just kind of
Oh, they're so gentle.
Yeah, they have to be. They're really good. They're pros.
They're wise beings.
Yeah, they are. They really are.
Casey, today was a lot of fun.
We hope you guys had a lot of fun with us.
We hope most of this was listenable.
Yeah. It was such an enjoyable ride. Also because the 3 topics that we chose are just like such wide ranging yet somewhat philosophical topics. Like,
Yeah.
we can have a lot of fun with this. So I hope if anyone has any opinions, just let us know.
Yes, please. Always send us an email with your opinions or post on the Instagram.
Just don't always expect that we're going to get back to you.
Wow. Well, he said it, folks. Casey, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
You are the Frodo to my Sam, even though you want to be Sam. I'm sorry. No, you know what?
You're my Frodo to my Sam.
Hey, there we go.
We're both Sams, we're both Frodos.
Wow. That is such a... Oh, boy. We're really giving ourselves a lot of
Everyone's
credit.
vomiting right now. Turn the volume down. Like, just end it, you guys. Jesus.
Thank you so much for listening to this trilogy of Completely Arbitrary. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Completely Arbortrary is produced by Alex Crowson and Casey Clapp.
Our artwork is by Jillian Barthold, and our music is by Aves and the Mini Vandals.
And you can support the podcast at patreon.com/arbitrarypod.
And find additional readings at completelyarbitrary.com. Thanks for listening.